Welcome to Saskatchewan, Whitewood, Saskatchewan. I have a interesting old house that was built in 1885, and it's got 45 windows, 50 doors, 7 staircases, and 4 fireplaces, and made it into a museum. And my name is George Chopping, but I got a name about 45 years ago, Old George, and now they've given me a new name, Old George of the Canadian Prairies. So that was designated by me from some people in Wisconsin. So anyway, in result, I've been a collector ever since I was a teenager, and I started stamps when I was 8, and then coins when I was 10, and then when I was 19, I went to the States. My friend said, when you go back to Canada, why don't you buy a spinning wheel? So my very first spinning wheel is in the living room here. Started collecting and got this beautiful old house 40 years ago, and I've made it into a museum. Oh, I was raised in a little town called Dubuque, north of Broadview, Saskatchewan, on the north side of the Qu'Appelle Valley. And I was raised in a kid and right backwards and quiet and shy. And only 9 of us went to school in the old country school. And I didn't do too good in school. I failed grade 1 twice. And then my report card in grade 8 said, George's attitudes are far too removed from school activity. So because of that and traveling, I got to enjoy looking at the old things, and I've collected quite a variety of items. I guess my aunt started me stamps, and then Dad tore Chesterfield apart when I was 10 years old and found a 1900 10-cent piece. So then I started coins, and then when I come back from the States when I was 19, first thing I got was a spinning wheel, and then I kind of liked lamps, and so I've collected a few lamps. You'll see that. Well, in my collecting field here, I have met thousands of people. Already 28,000 people have gone through the house here, and we're all little kids, and we kind of enjoy looking at different things and things that remember us and remind us from when we were kids and stuff like that. Always said that because I was poor, I really treasured the items I did have, and have acquired a tremendous variety of items that I've collected at flea markets, garage sales, auction sales, and have added to my collection. Yeah, lots of people kind of wonder how come I ended up with a beautiful big old home like I do here. Well, I kind of was collecting, cluttered up my dad's garage, and he was aggravated because I couldn't get in his garage. And then one day when I worked at the potash mine at Sask, went to Whitewood, and I traveled down the Trans-Canada Highway and saw this big old brick house. And I said, ooh, that would be interesting to make that into a museum. And so I come back and I asked the gentleman if he could consider selling the place, and he said, yeah. And it was way above what I could afford, but I have a banker friend that helped me out, and I purchased the property. The history of the place is kind of very interesting. The gentleman that came here, he was a Frenchman, and he came here in 1882, homesteaded, ended up having 3,400 some acres of land around here. Not only that, he had a store north side of the railroad track. It was called the Moja Store. In 1884, the homestead declaration said he wasn't going to put his wife in a shanty, and due to the frost, he'll build a house in 1885 for $5,000. So that's what he did. Then in 1891, the Canadian census showed that he had 100 head of horses, 90 head of cattle, and he was worth $20,000. In 1906, his daughter got engaged to a French count, a Count Dichicon, added 3 more rooms to the house, and it was ready for them in 1908. End results, they stayed here till 1920. Then Pages were farmers. They had it for 55 years. Yonner was a merchant, had it for 7 years, and now I've been here 39 years and made it into a museum. Just kept working away at it, and then adding here and adding there, and then somebody says, well, you should put a shelf up there, you know, and you could put your tin cans up there. Oh, that's a good idea. So because other people giving little recommendations, I take it, and then I improve the place. The part about collecting is kind of that we're still big kids. When you're a little kid, you show off, oh, I got this toy or I got this doll. And you know, we're all big kids. Well, you know, that's adults. We're big kids too. I like to show off my stuff, and I get a lamp or something like that. Hey, I got a lamp. Oh, I got an Indian arrowhead, or I got a bicycle tire with wooden rims. And then people come along and they'll say, oh yeah, that's a wooden rim bicycle. Oh, I've never seen one. And so I show off my toys, and because I got such a cross-reference of collecting, it makes it interesting for the visitor, and it piques them on some certain item that they remember when they were childhood. And so, yeah, I have many different things and lots of things, and people ask what they are and have no idea, and I tell them. The part about this place and this museum, everybody just scratches their head and they say, do you live in here? I says, yeah, you know. And so I live with this stuff and put something in some place and something in another place, and then I'll see something. Oh yeah, that should go in that corner. And so I've decorated it up, and then, I don't have enough room, so I plaster the wall. And then I add another piece here, another piece there. So I have a great time displaying and showing the items that were used by the Canadian people in the prairies from the past, from the 1800s to 1940s. The exciting part about collecting, when I first started collecting and met old-timers that were collecting, they collected everything. Guns, picture frames, bottles, lamps, coat hangers, ties, anything that was from the old days. I thought that was kind of interesting. So anyway, I started, okay, I got one tie, and anyway, I got one lamp, started off with a lamp, one arrowhead, and you just kept adding to the collection. So in the house here, there's thousands of items. Usually when people come, there's always something that satisfies their niche. Sometimes when people come, I have a variety of things that I show, and for instance, I show them this here, and so far, and people have looked at it, and 28,000 people have looked at it, and nobody knows what it was made for. And finally, a lady the other day found on the internet and said it was for holding knives, which I can't quite believe that it is, but I have no idea what that was used for. So that was one of the items that people kind of interested. And this one here is for dads that have daughters, you see. And when the boyfriend comes over, if he cranks up the iron candle like this, if he likes the gentleman, the candle can burn from there to there, and then he has to go home. But if you don't like the boyfriend, well, then you just crank it down here, and he only stays a short while, eh? And then on there, then I had the nice honor, the British High Commissioner from England was here 20 years ago, and he looked at this little item here, and he looked at it, and he seen the little blade. He says, oh, that's a human bleeder. He says, that's how Robin Hood passed away. They actually bled him to death, but we don't talk about it. And George Washington, he passed away too from being overbled. So that if you had bad spirits or stuff like that, they cut a notch in you, drain some blood out of you, you're supposed to be more purified, you see, the person, eh? So you have that. Then one of the highlights, one day my sister, I go to the newsground, and my sister says, and I said, what'd you throw out on the newsground? Oh, George, you got enough junk. I said, come on, let's go have a look. And it was raining like today, and it was soaking wet. I said, why'd you throw that out for? Said, oh, you don't need that. I said, well, I'm going to take that home. So I take it home, let it dry out, banged on it, it was lumpy. Guess what I found inside? I showed my mom. She says, I haven't seen that in 35 years. Where'd you find it? I said, it was in a pillow. I says, when did you get it? She thumbs through out. She says, oh, I got that when I was 6 years old. And she was 90 15 years ago. Oh, I had a nice honor. Well, eventually I got the old carving here, and it was here, and didn't know who made it. And so kind of aggravated that it wasn't signed or didn't know anybody. But then somebody said, the fellow was a guy from BC. From Medicine Hat, excuse me. And so one day I was sitting here, and a guy comes, and he's standing over here, and I says, you know, and they look at that, and I said, yeah, somebody from Medicine Hat made it. And the guy says, I made that. I says, you made that? Yeah. I says, have you met me? He says, no. He said, but I had a picture of you. He said, I did a little one and I did a big one. And he says, that's a big one. I said, well, you never signed it. Oh, I said, well, I want it signed. You know, so he signed it, put the year on it, and he put a maple leaf. And I get after everybody. Put a maple leaf, then we know it's Canadian, eh? So that's fine, Danny. So then I had another Quiet George, and he ended up right there. And I showed the gentleman, and he looked at that. That's the first one I made. But he says, I sold that to a trucker, but that's it. I said, yeah, I was at the Can-Am truck stop. Trucker said to me one day, you want to buy a little Quiet George? And I said, what do you mean a little Quiet George? He's traveled all over Canada, United States. And so I went out to the truck, and sure enough, he had that. Plus he had the cane here, all made of one piece of wood. And it was, so the guy hadn't signed them, so I got him to sign that. Well, then a lady dusts here about 2 years ago, and guess what I get for a Christmas present? Another Quiet George. So now you've met 3 Quiet George, and I'm the motor mouth. The exciting part is that when you're kind of adventurous, like I was with a kid, you know, and how you are when you're teenagers, you roam around, and you go to this guy's place, and you have a friend and go see his uncle and stuff like that. Well, this one night we went, and it was about 11 o'clock at night, and we drove in this yard there, and I seen this white pile. And I said to my friend, what the heck is that? And the guy says, that's my uncle's bone pile. Bone pile. Let's get the hell out of here. I had nothing to do with that. Oh, that was creepy, this big white pile of bone. Well, when I moved here about 3 years later, I went looking for it because I learned more about the history of our Canadian prairie, and I found it and asked guy, and I bought it. And so then I moved it down here. After I moved it down here, a gentleman, 92 years old, came. He says, yeah, first money I ever made, he says, I got 2 gunny sacks full of dried bones. He said, I took them to the elevator and I got 5 cents, and that was my spending money. Then he said, in 1930s, we didn't have no cash money, and the only money Dad made was we hauled bones from the bush, and we got $2 for a wagon load of bones. And when wages were $5 a month, was good money. And I said, why the bush? He says, oh, this was all open prairie, and the wild horse and buffalo would go in the bush, and they get snowbound and pass away. And now the archaeologists believe that it is the only bone pile left in Saskatchewan, and said, do you realize in 1886, Saskatchewan's first export, we sold $1,500 worth of bleached bones to the United States to be made into fertilizer. But in the collective field, you pick up something and you say, what is it? And what does it originate? What did it do? And stuff like that. So there's pieces like, say, I could tell you to pick up a piece of wood over there, and it looks like a piece of wood. And then you see what's on it, and you say, oh, and how it was done, and who made it. So it's kind of rewarding that you have something that you could show people that was used from the past. Yeah, we're all one just giant puzzle. Even like yourself now, you look in this living room here. If you figured out how many humans were involved in making all the stuff that is just in this one room, it is just phenomenal. The color, the printing, the engraving, the woodwork, the artwork, it's just amazing. The joys of collecting, you just never know. When you go to places and they've torn old houses down, and some of the houses have beautiful stained glass windows, and this particular house here, the very top window here where the bottles are, that is the original of the house on that. Well, then I had these ones I had gathered up, and one day they were sitting here by the door, by the den, and a lady said to me, what are you going to do with those stained glass windows? I said, well, they would become nice in the window. Look, yeah, she said, that'd be a good idea. So that was that night. So she stayed down in the log cabin. The next morning she come up, and when I come here, everything was cleaned away. I said, what's going on? She says, well, go put the stained glass windows up. Well, anyway, so we got the sawhorses here, laid it all out, had it all set up, put the brackets all on, and then a couple came, a tourist, and I asked the gentleman what he was. He was a carpenter. I said, I need a bit of hand, and we lifted it up and we screwed it in. And so that's the joys of, and we always talk about these big homes and these ladies they have a beautiful picture window, and then they put $2,000 to $3,000 worth of drapery or covered up the windows. This way, I got my nice leather glass windows on display. Then, because of my collecting, I needed a lot of room, and one day I said, God, I got no room. And so I got the Caterpillar in and pushed some of the bush out back and made a room, and I just put a building back there. And then, because people always give me lots of ideas, a gentleman said to me, why don't you make a village? Oh, that sounds like a good idea. So then I start packing the buildings in, and I've hauled something like 30 somewhat buildings back there. I made it like the Wild West, and I've added, and then I'm also a great recycler, and I haul stuff from the nuisance ground and boards and dumpsters, and this board I can use here, that piece of glass this here, and you'll see my saloon. It's all made from the garbage dump, and everybody just shakes their head, and I said, yeah, that were all pieces of wood that came from the garbage. The part about in the village is that I go to the nuisance ground and I find some boards, for this piece. And I said, oh yeah, I'll save them. And I really don't know what I'm going to use them for, but I save them. Then you go and there's a couple old tin cans, and then, oh, there's a piece of tin. Well, sometimes there's a leak in the roof or something like that. You use the tin to cover up the leak. Other times there's other decorative stuff. And then all of a sudden, I don't refinish or just the actual color of the wood. When I find it, I'll use it. You want a certain color, you look for a certain board or something like that. Oh, well, I haven't seen it. And then one day, when you're doing something, you least stick, you'll see that. And then, oh yeah, then I'll finish that job. So I have about 20 jobs that are on the go, and always adding something. This one here, the people I got it from, they said that when the pioneers came to Whitewood, just west of here, they built this little shack and they lived in it for 1 year. Well, they built the big house, and it's made of 1x4s, not 2x4s, 1x4s. So you look inside and you see what it's about. And this guy here, had one wall was missing too, and so I cut a doorway in it, and I made it my sheriff's office. You can check out the sheriff in the sheriff's office. It's like anybody, an artist or a carpenter or stuff. You have a pile of stuff. You say, now what am I going to use that for? And so I get an old building and I pack right at home there. Where am I going to put it? I don't know. Oh, maybe it'll look good over there. I need some work on that. Then so I put it there, and then I'm going to use that. Well, I was going to use it for that building. So I put a few things. No, I don't like that. You take it out, and so you hang something else in. Oh, that looks better. And then somebody will get a suggestion. Well, why don't you put a lean-to on it? Well, that's a kind of a good idea, eh? So you put a lean-to on, eh? And then you get some boards. Oh, I could use them for shelves. So you put shelves in, and then you start putting the cans and stuff on. So it's an ongoing episode. You just go to a garage sale, and I got a tin can a couple days ago, and it goes in the oil can episode, so it'll go in the hardware store. So move something over and try and fit it in. Yeah, just continuously. It's like you could go shopping every day and come home with an item or two, and then where do you put it in your house? And after a while, you got too cluttered up. And I'm a good one for that. Well, in this generation, it's very fortunate. Some of the people surrounding areas here said, hey, George, I got an old building. We're going to tear it down. Do you want it, or you come and get it? You can have it. So I come and I get it, and I jack it up, and get the old tractor, and I haul it in here and I blank it down, and then they say, now what am I going to do with that? Well, that one wall is missing, or that ceiling is missing on this wall, and then so some of the lumber that I had scrounged from the elevators and stuff like that, I start patching them up and making the things. So like the chapel, it was taken to the top of the church and was here. And so one day I asked the lady, what are you going to do with the chapel top? Oh, we're going to burn it tonight. I says, don't you dare. I says, you know, I want that, you know, can I have it? She said, yeah, get it out of here. So took it and I got a nice old counter and that, and I decorated it and made it my chapel. And the Chinese laundromat, it was a beat up old tin building, and one of me said, what the hell you haul that home for? Anyway, and I put some boards on it and put some of the Chinese stuff and the washing machines, and in it I got a puffer fish and some Chinese pictures and different things, so I decorated that up. Here's something that's a little different. Anyway, those are all the different types of washboards. And then this little stove here was used in the laundromat, and you put your steel irons on here and you would heat it up in the Chinese laundromat, and that was to keep your irons hot. Well, I ended up hauling 30 some odd buildings back there, and just different types of building that people didn't want out in the prairies within a 30-mile radius, and they were going to burn them or just, you know, bulldoze them over. And so I saved them. So now the village has a blacksmith shop, a chapel, grocery store, hardware store, wholesale jobber store, and the log cabins. There's people stay in log cabins, and they go back to the 1880s and with the wood stove, and people actually stay in them, celebrate. And I got one little cabin that is really unique. It's got the barn on one end and the kitchen, the living room in the center, and the bedroom on the other end of the barn building. And it's been the honeymoon suite now for a couple, and they have the fire pits, and yeah, so people, when they go back down there, it's just like going back into the early 1900s. But my hardware store, well, that was easy. Different pieces of harness and kerosene lamps and all that. And my general store, well, I've got I think there's maybe at least 100 tin cans in there, all different types that were used in the early days, and the old stove. And then in the other buildings, the log cabin ones, I got one decorated up from 1890, and the old wooden cupboards and all that. And some people come, oh, we see these in the antique books sometimes about some of these buildings. I says, but you got one in real life. So that's what happens. And some people kind of wonder, you know, how come it got called the Hidden Village? Well, there's lots of trees around here, and nobody knows anything. It's right close to the Trans-Canada Highway here, and nobody has no idea. And they walk back there, and it's just like the Wild West. They come back up, people come up and says, oh my gosh, and where'd you get the buildings, and whose idea was that? And I says, somebody said they got an old building, and I go scrounge it and haul it here, and then I decorate it up and add pieces to it, and so it ended up getting called the Hidden Village. Well, one of my buildings that I got it, and it's from 1898, and it ended up being on a farm, ended up being an oil shed, and did it stink? Unreal, eh? And so actually that was one of the first buildings I moved, and I moved it 3 times in the village to finally find a spot where I really wanted it. But that thing stunk so badly, and people would stick their nose in there and look at that when I first had it. Get rid of this building, burn it, and stuff like that. But no, used ashes and black dirt and kitty litter, and I rubbed on the floor, and then I sandblasted it, and then I worked like heck on it. And now it's, you know, people, it's called Hotel in Carolyn, and people look in it and people stay in it. And I said, does it smell bad? No. You know, stuff like that. So you have the joys that. Then you get some log building that has a couple logs missing in the bottom and the floor's rotted out. Well, you get some logs, and sometimes they tear old buildings down, and there'll be a log in the nuisance ground. I'll hawk it home, and oh yeah, that'll fit in there. And so I do that. And this here is my other saloon, and this one has a little bit of unusual characteristics inside. And you'll notice the trough there in front of the bar. In the old days, ladies weren't allowed in the bar. The men used to drink at the bar, and you didn't want to lose your spot, so you peed in the trough, and this way you didn't lose your spot in the bar. Some of the other buildings, you have a little idea of the blacksmith shop. You know, one tool here, another tool here, and eventually, all of a sudden, it starts looking like something. Okay? And so now I got them cluttered up, and there's actually too much stuff in them. But yeah, so, but there's always people look and say, oh, yeah, I like that, or oh, look at that there. Don't seen that tongue tool before. And so the collector today is a different style of a collector. They collect just in particular one item, like say maybe blacksmith tools. Next one might take tin cans. Next one oil memorabilia. Other ones slightly, because it seems that they put a more intrinsic value and spend money on just one certain thing. And this one here, the two bottom logs were gone, and it was kind of falling over a little. And I put the chains on it, wrapped it around, and I brought it. Then I told you about, I go pick logs out of the nuisance ground, and I jacked it up and I fixed it up. And so this one here now looks like this. Crazy part about it is, one day I was at a guy's place, and I got the whole building here, and it just had the walls and no roof, and had a divider suit, so I was able to put it on wheels on a kind of a wagon thing, and I hauled it home here, and I slid it over here and beside the building and beside the house here, and as you can see, there's the cement steps. And then I had a tractor I borrowed, and I took out about 3 feet of dirt here and leveled it all off. And then I started to, with crap that was all from the nuisance ground, I started making displays and making the saloon, and it's all pieces and parts and garbage. And in results, I started January 1st, and by July 31st, I had it decorated up. Not quite as cluttered as it is now, but it was decorated up, and yeah, I had fun. Just taking old pieces of wood, and I never paint anything, only painted the front parts of the railing here, but yeah, I just had fun. This piece of wood goes here, this piece of wood goes there, and I made the displays. Oh, the bear, no, I got it from a gentleman. And yeah, I just, and I didn't know where to put them. And then one day I was sitting here, and then I made the episode up here, and I said, you know, if he looked good there. And then I remembered I got an old painting that was in one of the sheds, so I dug it out and put it behind there. And so he's about a 3-year-old. He's a young one. I enjoy collecting, and there is hundreds of items in the house here, and lots of them have stories, and I know what they are about and what they are, and then some things I don't know, and then every once in a while somebody comes along and says, oh, that was used for so-and-so, or that was used like that. And so we get lots of different things, and then people look, and all of a sudden 6 months later I get a letter and say, found it, what it was, and they let me know. And so another item. So I have what they call what's it that I kind of like, and different people see them and don't know what they are, you know, and then say, what's that? Or they'll bring things, and yeah, I'll know what it is, because I've been very fortunate. I hung around with the old timers that collected, and they had all these weird stuff that we don't know anything about today. The exciting part about when I have visitors come, they look and they just shake their head, and some they look at the woodwork, and otherwise look at the rocks and the carvings and stuff like that, and they go away. Well, now I've had 28,000 people gone through, and the last few years and just almost now, it is quite common that when people come, somebody has seen this so-and-so many years ago, or saw this so, and they bring their friends and they say, yeah, you got to see the house. And those that come in and all of a sudden, oh my God, never seen anything like that. And so lots of people come around the corner, and I think you even said to your partner there, wow. You see, you at least expect it because there's such a variety of stuff here, and lots of people enjoy that, and so they gossip about it, and then other people come. The interesting part about the collecting and the buildings and that is that you go to the nuisance ground, and God, there's an old tin can, there's an old funnel. Hey, a couple of days ago I went to a garage sale there, and there was a nice red cooking pot, eh? And I said, oh, that'll go in the hardware store. So never know where something thrown out that nobody wants from the past, and then the results that, oh, and I'll have sometimes something around here for years, and all of a sudden one day I'll look at it, that should go here, you see, and I decorate it up, and some people like to ask, how long I've been collecting. Well, like I say, I've been collecting now, I guess you think about it now, it's 60 years. So like say, start off with the stamps, coins, spinning wheel, lamps, and I go to garage sales, I go to flea markets and sales, and always buy something, eh? And so I stay broke all the time because I buy this piece of junk and that piece of junk, and then somebody says, when are you going to pack that at home? And sometimes people kind of laugh and say, oh, you take it, and then they come back and say, oh my God, look that was that piece of junk you had. Yeah, I cleaned it up. It's like you can be in terrible coveralls and dusty and black as all heck, and then 2 days later you see downtown and you're in a suit, you see? So you can make things happen, and that's the nice part. With these old buildings, it didn't cost me anything to get them, just, decorate them up. When I first started collecting and I was married, we'd go out and my paycheck was only something like $60 or something like that, and we'd go ask at farms, you got anything old? And somebody said, yeah, I got this or got this. Well, we come home and we spend $25, $30 and have the car right full of old things, eh? So you search. And one time, 40, 50 years ago, out of every 10 farmhouses, you always came out with some stuff and bought for $1, $2, like you do at the garage sales, eh? And so over the years, you hear about something, and you go to the place, and usually with me and my collecting, I go and God, I'd like to find that certain lamp. I don't find that. But guess what I find? I find a pair of skates, or I find a scoop for scooping ice cream out of a container, an old one like that, or a mix master that is metal and all that. And so you add these different things to items, and then it finally gets a home where that it sits around here for a certain long place, and all of a sudden you find something that you kind of like. I used to charge $2 for admission to go through the museum, but now, after 39 years here, last few years now, I've just taken donations. See if I'm home and you're glad to come, and sometimes if you're from far away, one of the highlights in my collective field one time, I showed this couple at about dinner time, the house, eh? And they were from Germany. And she says, can we dine on your dining room table? Ooh, I don't have any food. I said, yeah. She said, we'll have supper on your table. Well, okay, so come. Well, she comes in, big bowl of potatoes, big bowl of carrots, and meat and stuff like that. I says, ma'am, that's for feed people for a whole week. She says, yeah, we're going across to the States, and we can't take our food across, so I made you up and you can eat it. Well, I ate for a whole week, and they were from Germany. 4 years later, I get a phone call. And I said, where are you from? And we're from Germany. He says, your place still open? I says, yeah, where are you at? Oh, we're in Medicine Hat. You're open? Yeah, we're going to come. We only get there about, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. That doesn't matter. You can come whatever time, I'll show you. And so they came. And so they went through, I said, excuse me, how'd you learn about the place? Oh, we're from Germany. We were at a party in Germany about 8 years ago, and we said we're going to go to Canada, and this couple said, if you're going to Canada, you make sure you stop at Old George, Hidden Village, the museum, eh? Well, and so I said, we're going, yeah, we were going to go south the States, but we come all across Saskatchewan just to see you. Oh, that was a great honor, eh? So another great honor was that one day 2 guys come, and I said, how'd you learn about the place? Oh, I read about you in Beijing. I said, what do you mean Beijing? He says, I didn't think I brought that magazine. So that out comes back in. Guess what? It's the Cosmopolitan magazine with Jennifer Lopez on it. Open it up. Here's a full-page write-up about me in the Cosmopolitan magazine. And now the National Geographic, they come and they tour. And I had the very honor, they gave me a blue star a few years ago. There was 11 of us in Saskatchewan got blue star. 11, 10 were government owned, and I'm the only private one. And then of all the nice honors, I just been honored now. They've done a new tour guide for the world, 500 best road trips in the world. And mentioning Saskatchewan, going up to Last Mountain Lake, come down by Melville and go across the Capel Valley and make sure you stop at Old George's Hidden Village, the museum. So I'm very honored. And people come and how they learn about it, I said, you just phone to make sure I'm home. My number is 735-2255 with the area code 306 in front. And that, so you just phone.